Welcome, everybody, to the Foremost Forecast, the podcast that brings you a better insurance experience with Foremost. I'm Ryan Farrell.
And I'm Alexis Nieves. And today we're sitting down to talk about our new condo renter program with 3 experts from around the company joining us. Let's start with introductions. Troy, you want to lead?
Thank you. Yes, I'm Troy. I'm an underwriter here. I have actually also worked for a little bit as an independent agent and have spent about the last 17 years in underwriting.
I am Kendra Vandermeulen. I'm a territory manager for Northern California. I've been working with Foremost in the products for almost 5 years now.
And I'm Jen Rushlo. I've been in property product for the last 6 years, and before that I was in underwriting and claims, and I've also worked in an independent agent's office.
Perfect. Sounds like we got a lot of experience in the room. So then what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm just going to dive right into the first question. So let's actually talk, what is the product that we're talking about today? Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So these are our condo and renters products. So condo, of course, is for your condo owner, whether they live in the condo themselves or they rent it out, or even if it's vacant. And then our renters program is for those who don't own the place where they're living. So maybe they live in an apartment or they're renting a house to live in.
Is this a new program? Is it something we just kind of launched, or have we had it around for a while?
We just, in California anyways, have had the program for just over a year. Last November is when it rolled out. We've had great success so far in Northern California with the program.
Excellent. Yeah, and it is available in most states. There are a handful of states where we have not rolled that out yet, but...
Do we eventually intend to have that in all states, or to be determined on the plan?
Most states that have all of our traditional products should be getting this. It's just been a process to roll it out, and as Troy mentioned, though, most do already have it.
Awesome. As with any big product you roll out, right?
Yes.
Well, good. Thanks for sharing. Let's start with the underwriting side, and Troy might be the expert here, but I'm sure you guys have some perspective as well since you've dealt with it. What do we have here at Foremost in relation to this product that's maybe setting us apart in underwriting, or just what's going on in underwriting with it?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things that we actually have is the ability to write condos that are vacant or vacation rentals. You know, a lot of companies may have condo products for the owner that's living in it, but they may not have the rental, or especially the vacation rental or the unoccupied vacant one. So.
And another big selling feature even for that too is they can endorse between usage type. So if you write the condo as vacant and they actually end up renting it out a couple months later, they can easily endorse that to a rental usage type instead of needing to cancel and rewrite the policy.
Okay.
Correct.
When they do that endorsement, this is something I've kind of actually been wondering for a while now, does that change how the written premium, like the minimum written premium earned, works? Like if they weren't to have to cancel it, or does that still apply because they're switching policy types?
It would not reset the minimum, so if they canceled it, it would still go from the original inception date of the policy.
Even if they had added the endorsement after a while?
Right.
Oh, that's
yep,
nice.
The policy effective dates don't change.
And so when you mentioned about it's pretty quick and pretty easy to do, how much time does it take normally? Is it just like it kind of varies depending on what you're doing and what it looks like, or is it like, no, it normally takes about a month or X amount?
As far as when going
like
from
if they're
vacant
changing
to rental,
yeah.
So a lot of that's going to depend on what they're doing with it. Some people may have bought it to renovate it, in which case, okay, how long are the interior renovations of it taking? Sometimes people buy it to put it on the market. Typically, I think, and you all can correct me if I'm wrong, but in most of the markets, if they're buying it with the intent of renting it out, those are turning over pretty fast now in today's housing market.
Usually I see agents tell me when it's nice to be able to endorse that when they are maybe in between renters, having a hard time finding renters to take over, or if, the previous renters maybe did some damage to the home and they wanted to make some renovations before new renters came in, so they found that was an easy way just to be able to endorse a policy. They don't have to rewrite it or cancel or any of that. Saves them a lot of time.
Yeah. And one thing that's cool is agents can actually process those endorsements themselves in our quoting system. So they're not having to actually call us to make a change. They can just go in there and say, yep, it went from rental to vacant or vacant to rental. I'm just going to go in and process it myself. So.
Now, is there X amount of times in where you can and can't do that. Let's say that, it goes back and forth. Like, just like how you mentioned, sometimes you're renting it out, and then sometimes, you have people, you're doing renovations. Is there a limit? Like, okay, so I changed it, put the endorsement on, and then I wanted to remove it. If they need to do that, is there a limit for them to be able to do that?
There's not a limit in there. I don't anticipate that happening a lot.
Yeah, they're not just saying
by the same token,
yeah.
Because there is a little bit of leeway. So if they're in between tenants and they know they're going to have a new tenant in there within 30 days, we're not telling them, hey, you have to switch the policy at this point. It's more like, okay, hey, it's empty now. I know it's going to be empty for a while, and that's at the point where it's like, yeah, you should really be looking at the vacant products.
A wonderful endorsement that we offer, that we have, is a platinum package, and a great. I always encourage my agents to take a look at that package, because if the home does, or the condo does become vacant, it gives them 90 days for the reduction in coverage, rather than the standard 30 days with most other carriers, or without the platinum package with us. So that even could save them even more time, where they won't have to endorse the policy from vacant to rent, or from rental to vacant.
Yes.
And you mentioned a reduction in coverage. So not remembering, if you're not an insurance person, you don't always think like, hey, I should buzz up my agent quick, or call my agent, I guess, more accurately, and let them know I'm going to be doing some renovations. So that gives an extra time where, what kind of reductions are we looking at in something like that?
They have a vandalism loss. There won't be coverage if it's been vacant more than 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, and then some reductions in just all claims in general in addition to that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it's something important you want to make sure you're checking into, and we make it easy for that reason, right?
Yes, definitely.
So it's in Foremost Star. If I were an agent, where in Foremost Star would I be processing something like that?
So if they go in and there's a section where they can retrieve a quote or estimate,
Okay.
and then as soon as they retrieve it, there will be a button that they can select that says Manage Change Policy, and then they can pick what they're doing. So they could endorse it, they could cancel it.
Oh, wow.
Pretty much anything they want to do in there, they're able to accomplish.
Some nice ease of use right there.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's a great place to even just go to look up policy information too. I know a lot of agents have their agency management system, but this can give them a little more specific detail, or if they need to get a copy of a deck page for a customer, Foremost Star is a great place to do that.
Yep. And of course, being an underwriter, I like to trumpet the fact that it also has this thing called Supply Source, which is really awesome for pulling policy jackets or for pulling program guides, which has all the rules for the products in it. It's right there. They can look at it.
Or marketing pieces.
Yeah, that's true as well.
Everybody's got a little something in Supply Source, right?
That's true. That's true.
I am a big fan of Supply Source. You can pretty much anything on any of our products, any questions that you have with the new updates that we made to Supply Source, kind of just being able to type in a simple word to find multiple different resources that are available, and it's just really easy to use for our agents, and great quick place for them to check for that type of material.
Sounds to me like we might need to do a Foremost Star.
Yeah.
podcast.
Might be more
Yeah.
specific than that. Yeah, there might be some benefits.
Now, thinking of the underwriting piece of this, other than we kind of spoke to some of maybe the endorsements we could add, do we have a lot of restrictions on these condos or renters we're taking, or are we pretty open into what we're taking?
So the underwriting on this is pretty open on that. Of course, we do have rules regarding claims and losses that we're going to look at, but we are looking to be fairly open and have good underwriting appetite for this.
I would say I found agents have been successful with our broad underwriting appetite and all the usage types that we accept. And being able to exclude dangerous dog breeds has been kind of a niche that we've had. And then the short-term vacation rental in Northern California, that's with the Tahoe area, that's been a very popular area for the condo short-term vacation rental use.
On a condo short-term rental type deal, that would be, are there specific requirements for how often you have to rent that, or what does that look like? Because that's got to be more than just Tahoe, right? Like anywhere someone's traveling. I'm thinking like Airbnb. Are those things we're okay with, or? Right.
So when it comes to your vacation short-term rentals, from an underwriting perspective, there's not a cap on the number of times. We actually kind of phrase it as it's monthly, weekly, daily rentals. So you could rent it out every weekend throughout the course of the year, and that would be perfectly fine. We do deal with different ways to advertise vacation rental type things, and any of those are really okay. We don't restrict it because they're marketing through Airbnb or VRBO or anything like that. In the condos, we really want to make sure, okay, you're renting out the whole condo to somebody, and it is a vacation and short-term rental condo. We're not looking for, I have an owner-occupied condo that I'm going to rent out for the weekend.
Okay.
That's not the market we're in.
And the great thing too about the vacation rental condos is the owner can use it themselves.
Yeah. But the key with that is they're using it as a secondary residence
They're
and
not
it's
living
my
there
house.
every
Right.
year. Okay.
Like renting it to themselves and just putting it in the renter.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think a big one, because a lot of times people, agents ask me about Airbnb and VRBO, but like Troy mentioned that they're renting the entire home and it is a secondary or vacation rental, because both of those sites I know do offer like for room rental or partial of the home or condo. So our appetite is really the entire unit that we're looking for the rented out.
Now, when an agent is actually talking to an insured, how would they go about finding that information out? Is it just as simple as saying, "Hey, you're just renting out the whole thing," and then how would they use that information to kind of dig out and find out that it is just the whole home?
Yeah, they would definitely want to ask those types of many questions to make sure they understand the full use or the proper use of the home. So how often, they plan on using the home, or if they're renting it out to friends or family members or anyone around those sites, and just, making sure that it's the entire home that they're renting out and not just a specific room or portion of the home.
Right. And I think people are generally upfront with how they're using it.
Yep.
So a lot of times the customer's telling the agent even before they start asking those questions.
Yeah, and especially because if they're not renting out the entire house, a lot of times they're trying to start with an owner-occupied quote. And then from there you discover, but I do rent out the basement or this room.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, it's just asking those questions to really get an understanding of what they're really looking for a lot of times.
And a lot of times I found that usage types change. So, you originally, may just be a secondary home or vacation home, but then they decide to start renting it out from time to time. So I think it's a good idea to have annual reviews with your insureds as renewals come up to make sure that everything is proper and the coverages are efficient. That's not the word.
Adequate.
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 Yes, thank you.
Definitely not a bad idea, and I've heard a lot of agents share in the past that could certainly be a successful thing for them, trying something like that, checking in on renewals or however they set that system up for their office to work, for sure.
And I've seen that even help with retention with some agencies that I work with that they do annual reviews with their agencies.
Just checking in and
Bonus,
saying hi.
bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure, right?
Yep, exactly. Okay. Well, then the next thing we were going to ask about is what type of coverages are we offering on this product?
So we have a lot of endorsements available. As Kendra mentioned, we have the Platinum package available for our rental condo, but then on our owner-occupied condo, we also have the ability, and also on renters, to schedule personal property. We have personal property comprehensive endorsements, replacement cost on personal property, and that's actually also available on the rental as well.
And kind of one interesting thing is the condo policies, the base on the unit that we're insuring is replacement cost.
Oh,
So there's not you can have actual cash value or replacement cost. The unit owner's building itself is replacement cost on our policy.
I'm guessing that's not something everyone else is doing. Am I right with that, or?
I would imagine it's fairly common. Yeah.
Oh, everyone
and-
is including replacement
I
costs.
would think, but I don't.
Maybe?
I think it could go both ways. Some that do and some that don't. So it could be an option.
Well, let me ask you, what's the benefit to having it as a replacement cost?
biggest benefit is going to come into play, especially in partial type losses. So you have fire damages, the kitchen counters that our insured is responsible for, and not having replacement cost. Now you're depreciating what they're going to get paid in a claim based on the age and condition of that part of the home.
So that would definitely be advantageous to tell, if I'm an agent, telling it to, you know, my insured or my customer, letting them know, hey, this is why this is so beneficial and this is how it can help you out.
Yes, definitely better coverage with the replacement costs, and it could be less of a hit on the insured's pocket when they do have a loss.
Now, this is for the condo owner occupied or for the renter's policy, or both?
This is for both.
This is for both. Okay, so this is going to be a replacement cost automatically included. You don't even have to stress about the endorsement.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, on the unit itself. The personal property, they'd have to add the replacement cost.
But it's at least an option for them.
Yep.
Oh, that's a nice option.
So that's one thing I think I don't hear a whole lot of other carriers with renters insurance offering replacement costs. I think that's a great benefit, that foremost, that we do offer that. Also, our personal property, it starts out at $5,000 for renters insurance. I continuously hear other competitors are starting off at $15,000, and well, we do have $15,000. If they enter that amount, then it automatically adds the replacement cost. So that's really great coverage for renters, and make sure that they're getting the actual replacement value for their lost or items, damaged items.
Absolutely.
Now, are there any other coverages that are automatically built into some of these newer policies that maybe we're not seeing elsewhere, or that you have heard have been really beneficial for our customers?
So our policy jackets include items like debris removal and ordinance or law on the condo. And then also we include a $2,500 limit for loss assessment, which they can actually increase to an additional amount if they would like to purchase higher limits.
Okay, and that loss assessment coverage, for anyone who maybe isn't super familiar, when is that going to come into play for them?
So that will come into play if each individual condo owner in an association could get a surcharge or an assessment sent from their homeowners association. So if one of the shared buildings or a shared roof has wind or hail damage, they could extend their deductible out to each individual unit owner. And that loss assessment coverage would come into play then.
So their HOA deductible for like their master policy they carry,
Right.
They're going to split that between all those unit owners. And I'm guessing that's a pretty high deductible if it's a big association, if you will. Interesting. So nice to have that built in.
Yeah.
Any other interesting coverages that are built in at all? Or those are the most common positive ones?
Those are the most common. Now with the condo too, the coverage area, their unit owner buildings is a comprehensive coverage.
Oh, okay.
So they have coverage for anything that is not excluded, whereas the personal property in those policies would be named peril. But then in the condo homeowners, they have the option to buy the comprehensive personal property endorsement.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. And that comprehensive, I remember before, provided a ton more coverage.
Oh,
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Changes it to certain perils that are listed that are the only things covered to anything that's not excluded.
Yeah.
So what is one thing you wish all our agents knew about this product?
That we offered it. I think that it's a fairly new product for us, being just a year in Northern California anyway. So I continuously bring it up when I'm talking to agents, and it's easy to forget sometimes all the product offerings that Foremost have, especially with independent agents. They use so many different carriers, and each carrier has so many different product offerings. So just kind of everyone remembering to take a look at Foremost for those products.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I would echo that as well. You know, we're fairly new in the market with these products. Lots of other companies offer it, but we do have some of those things that we've already addressed that maybe they don't have, you know, as far as usage types and that type of thing. So branch off from just those usage types and maybe also think about some of the more standard usage types that we also have available. So.
And those non-standard usage types we have, like the vacant, we have really good success in vacant when we are being quoted. Our close rate is over 50% for the vacant condo.
That's awesome.
So that's a good way of just saying, you know, make sure to take a look we are in the market. As I talked about earlier, it is kind of new, as you mentioned earlier. So just take a look and see what's going on, because we do have, as we've talked about, as you mentioned, a lot of advantages to going with Foremost.
Yeah.
And just remind me again, so we're accepting in this, because it's almost like it's 3 products in one, right?
Right.
So we have our condo, we have our renters, and then our tenant, right?
Right.
So the tenant is when you are the person renting, the renters as if you're the landlord, and then the condo is the owner-occupied or short-term rental.
Exactly.
Okay, that's a lot to keep straight.
Yeah. Well,
There's a lot in here.
And one thing to kind of add to that, I think a lot of people get confused because we kind of launch these products all together. So one question that we actually do get sometimes is, the tenant policy, is that just for condos? Well, no. It's a tenant policy if they're in an apartment, if they're renting a house, if they're renting a condo. Any of those things will be able to handle, most of the time. So.
And we even have, under the mobile home program, the tenants for mobile homes too. So there's just so many product offerings that we have.
If you're ever not sure, try.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And the cool thing with that too, because we've done tenant manufactured home for forever, so one thing that's kind of cool, if the agent's going in to quote it, when they're in Star, they just say, hey, I'm a renter, and they tell you what type of unit they're renting, and if it's a manufactured home, the system will automatically put them in the right program. So you're not sitting there trying to figure out which program am I supposed to quote this into. It'll throw you in the right one.
Does the hard work for you, right?
Yeah.
And if you're still struggling, you can always call your territory manager and ask them about it.
Yes. I've had a lot of positive feedback from agents with the updates with Foremost Star. Just, you don't have to know exactly what program you want to quote the risk under. The system does it for you based on how you answer all the questions. It's just been a lot of positive feedback and makes it a lot easier for agents to quote with us.
Yes.
A lot less stress-free, I'm sure.
Yeah. Bigger ease of use. Yeah.
Now, before I ask the last question, I did want to ask one more thing about the coverages we're offering, because we talked about the endorsement option of replacement cost on that personal property, and then we also talked about that platinum package. But I've heard the platinum package in several of our programs, so can you just start by refreshing me of what's in that package and what makes it so great?
The greatest is there's a discount. Who doesn't love discounts? But it includes $3,000 for personal property. On the condo, 20% loss of rents, and $100,000 for liability. $300,000 for liability. I'm sorry, and then the landlord personal injury coverage, which is really important for landlords. The reduction in coverage that I mentioned earlier, when it's vacant for over 90 days, is another big one.
Updates that gap there.
Yeah.
And another big one too is in the renter condo, it gives $2,500 for water damage to another unit.
Oh.
So if your unit is leaking and it damages the one below you, there could be potential coverage there.
Okay, that makes sense. And that personal injury coverage, that's not super common, is it? Or is it mainly on landlords, or?
Yeah, more for, are you talking like with other carriers?
Yeah, so usually on a policy, right, you're going to have an included liability that's like a personal liability or a premises liability, but that personal injury is not the same. So what is that covering? Why would a landlord or someone with these policies want that coverage?
Yeah, so it is a separate endorsement normally, and I don't think all carriers are offering that, and it's very important for like wrongful evictions or suits that are brought up against the landlord, to protect them with anything with their tenants, those types of things.
Yep.
Things like wrongful evictions, when you say that, is that something that happens a decent enough time to where it is a good benefit to have something like that on there?
Well, I'm not a landlord, so I don't know for sure. But
Well, yeah, I guess that's true. It just might not tell you.
I think it comes up enough for it to be a beneficial coverage to have.
Now, other than that platinum package and the replacement cost on personal property, were there any other major endorsements that we didn't talk on, or?
So water backup is available on all of these programs
Okay.
as well, which of course is going to be a benefit to customers.
So what is water backup? What does that mean?
So if water backs up from sewers or drains, it's going to provide a limited amount of coverage, and it's typically $5,000 in the endorsement.
Yeah, which is important because a lot of insurance policies exclude that.
Right.
And having somebody that's lived through that happening, you want that coverage. You know?
And then you think of sewer, that's like the one you
Yeah.
really want
Yeah.
cleaned up. You don't
Yeah.
want to leave something
Yeah,
like
right.
that.
Yeah, that's good.
It's probably a really messy loss.
Yeah, right.
And one of my favorite questions I like to ask on the podcast specifically is just getting everyone's opinion on their favorite part of the product we talked about. So what is it that we're out there doing as Foremost that no one else is doing, or that you just love about the product we offer here?
So I know we've mentioned it, but I still love that we are able to endorse between the vacant and the vacation rental or the standard rental. It just saves so much time and makes it so much easier for both the agent and the customer.
I completely agree with that. I also love, we have so many different discounts available, especially for landlords. And anything from being a part of a landlord association to tenant screenings. If they have multiple homes that they rent out, they can get more discounts for that, plus a multi-policy discount. So all of these discounts can really add up and be a very, very good premium for our customers.
Yeah, and it's really good to tie in other products. You know, hey, tie in that RV they might have, or the snowmobile, or whatever it is, because you get discounts on those too. And I like the fact that we have broad underwriting eligibility. You know, there's a lot of these risks that we can take, especially with the various usages and that type of thing. You know, the vacants and that.
Well, thank you all again so much for spending some time here with us. And thank all of you for spending time with us today. This is Ryan.
And I'm Alexis.
And we're signing off with the Foremost Forecast.